Hello everyone, my name's Miss Ellen and this year I will be your garden teacher. So today I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about the wheat packet that you brought home and how we're going to use all of the supplies that are inside. First thing, I'm sure you've already found this. This is the short half piece of paper that has the website to get to all of the materials and this video. There's also a sheet that has wheat's life cycle and the parts of a wheat plant. And second sheet is, this is the Spanish side. This is a KWL chart. So a KWL chart stands for what you know, so what you already know. You can write at least 3 things about what you already know about wheat. The W stands for what you're wondering, so what you're curious about wheat. There's more space at the bottom, so if you have more than 3 things that you want to say about any of these, you can add those in at the bottom. And then the last section is what you learned. That's the L, what you learned. So after you finish all of these activities, which I'll show you here in a second, you'll fill out the what you learned. And there's 3 bullet points for you to fill those out as well. So that is the KWL chart. This last piece of paper is titled Growing Wheat, an Experiment. So this piece of paper is going to go along with the other materials that are in your bag. And we will talk more about that at the end of the video, so stay tuned. Hello everyone, Miss Ellen here. Today I want to share with you a short story of wheat, specifically wheat in Oregon. But before watching this video, please be sure to fill out your KWL or SQA sheet. And after you've done that, grab a pencil and your life cycles and parts of a wheat plant recording sheet, and let's get started. First, I want to share with you our daily agenda. Our agenda is in the middle of our little make-believe classroom, and it tells us what we are going to be learning about today. We're going to begin by discussing the wheat we eat, foods that contain wheat, and then we'll go into talking about a short history of growing wheat in Oregon. We'll then move on to wheat the plant, where we'll discuss wheat's life cycle and parts of a wheat plant, and that's where you're going to want to have on hand your life cycle and parts of a wheat plant recording sheet. And then finally, we'll finish off by talking about growing wheat at home. You will have your own opportunity to grow your own wheat at home, and I'm going to share more about that with you here in just a minute. There are some other things that I have posted up here in our mini classroom. I have the materials in your wheat kit on the right, so make sure that you have everything that you need. Make sure that all of the materials that are in your wheat kit line up with what's listed here. I also have some vocabulary that we will be working on during this project. That vocabulary includes the words furrow, combine, scythe, bushel, and kernel, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. I also have some fun facts. Did you know that 1 bushel of wheat contains approximately 1 million kernels? That blows my mind. That is amazing. And did you also know that wheat was one of the first wild plants that humans began to grow for food? The oldest relatives of wheat are believed to have come from the Middle East over 11,000 years ago. These are all facts that I've discovered as I was learning more about wheat. And remember, you can include facts like this and others in the What Did You Learn section of your KWL or SQA chart. Okay, let's move on to the wheat we eat and a short history of growing wheat in Oregon. I included this next slide to showcase all of the ways that wheat shows up in diets across the world, in things like challah, couscous, lo mein noodles, bagels, lussekated, breakfast cereal. Wheat shows up in so many ways and in so many countries across the world. Do you have a favorite food that contains wheat? If so, what is it? Okay, I want to move on and share with you a very short, very brief history of wheat in Oregon. This is not the only history of wheat in Oregon. There are lots of other stories of wheat growing in Oregon, but I wanted to give you a few important dates, starting in 1865, when the first flour mill was built in eastern Oregon. Flour mills are important because they turn wheat seeds that are hard and not easy to eat into a finely milled, finely ground flour that we can use in our baking and cooking. In the 1880s, most of the wheat that was grown in Oregon came from the Willamette Valley. The Willamette Valley is where we live, near Portland and Hillsborough and Beaverton, Salem, and it goes all the way down to Eugene. In the 1880s, a lot of people lived in the Willamette Valley, and it was far too expensive to ship wheat from other places around the state. But in the 1950s, hydroelectric dams were built along the Columbia River, and these dams made travel easier by boat. This meant that wheat didn't need to just grow in the Willamette Valley, and today wheat grows all over Oregon. Oregon farmers grow wheat in the spring and in the winter. Winter plantings happen in the fall around October and November. Now let's move into wheat's life cycle. Grab your life cycle recording sheet and let's get started. Like most plants, wheat starts as a seed, and the seed is the part of the plant that we eat. After wheat is planted, it begins to sprout. This is called the sprouting stage. At this point, the plant is small and looks a lot like the grass in our school fields. Next comes the growing stage. Winter wheat, the kind of wheat we will be growing, continues to grow and mature over the course of 6 to 8 months. Wheat that is planted in the spring, however, only takes 4 months. Why do you think that is? There is more sunlight in the spring and summer, which speeds the growing process. Wheat, like all plants, needs sunlight to make their food, and because there are more hours of sunlight in the summer, the plants don't need as many months to grow. Next comes the flowering stage. Pollination happens in this stage. After wheat is pollinated, it can begin making seeds, which brings us to the final stage, the seeding stage. Flowering heads develop seeds, and after the seeds mature, the wheat can be harvested for use. But the life cycle doesn't really end there, because it starts all over again. Some of the seeds that were harvested can be saved and planted again next year. Pause this video here to fill out wheat's life cycle. Then think about this. Is this life cycle similar to the life cycle of an animal? Is it different? How? Let's now move on to parts of the wheat plant. You should already have your recording sheet in front of you, so let's get started. Please feel free to pause this recording at any time if you need to catch up or write something down. I'm going to be starting with the part of the plant that lives underground, the roots. Roots keep wheat grounded and stable while also acting as a sponge, absorbing nutrients and water from the soil. Moving up from the roots, next is the stem. The stem acts as a straw or a tube, delivering the nutrients and water up from the roots to other parts of the plant. The job of the leaves is to make food for the plants through a process called photosynthesis. Photosynthesis happens when carbon dioxide and water from the air and soil are turned into food and oxygen using the sun's energy. After the leaves come the wheat head. The wheat head, also known as the ear, holds all of the kernels. There are approximately 35 to 50 kernels per wheat head. And last but not least, the wheat kernel, or the wheat seeds. As I mentioned earlier, the kernels are the part of the plant that we and other livestock eat as food. You may be wondering what happens to the rest of the wheat plant if we only use such a tiny portion. After the kernels are harvested, the rest of the plant can be used as straw, for animal bedding, or to cover gardens with in the winter. Now that we've discussed how wheat grows, and when and how it has grown in the past, I want to show you how it is planted. The planting process starts with the soil. Soil must be loosened and prepped before the seeds are planted. A plow is a farming tool that usually does this job. Plows are pulled by tractors or horses and help to loosen the soil while also creating furrows. Furrows are trenches that rows of seeds can be planted in. After the soil is prepped and the furrows are made, the wheat seeds can be loaded into another tool called the planter. The planter is pulled by the tractor as it drops seeds into the furrows. These videos that I'm showing you are actually from a planting right here in Forest Grove. I was able to follow Farmer Lyle on a small planting close by. I will keep you updated on the growth of these grains throughout their growing season. Once the wheat is mature, dry, and ready to harvest, a scythe or combine harvester is brought in.
Combines are large machines used to cut wheat and separate the seeds or kernels from the stems. A scythe is a tool used to cut wheat by hand. This process has been used for thousands of years and is still used today. The video above was taken in Nepal and shows someone cutting wheat by hand using a scythe. How cool is that? Did you also know that wheat is measured by the bushel? Bushels are used as a way to measure things like wheat, apples, and corn. A bushel of wheat is 60 pounds. Now I want to walk you through your own wheat experiment that you will be conducting from home.
So what you're going to do is take your 2 cups. You're going to put soil, a little bit of soil in both, so fill them up to the top. And then you're going to sprinkle half of your seeds in one cup and half of your seeds in the other cup. And you're going to put one of your cups in a very dark place away from the sun. You're going to keep that watered. You're going to check on it every day. And then you're going to take the other cup and you're going to put it in a nice sunny window and you're going to water that as well. And then what you're going to do is fill out these two top boxes. The first box says the type of wheat I'm planting. So again, that is red Fife wheat. Red Fife wheat. You can draw a little picture of your seeds. You can use pencil, you can use colors if you'd like. You can make them as small as they are, or you can make them, you can pretend like there's a magnifying glass over them, so you can make them a little bit bigger than what they look like in the envelope. And then on day 2 of growing, on day 4 of growing, day 6 of growing, day 8 of growing, and day 10 of growing, you're going to check on your plants. You're going to draw a picture of the wheat that's growing in the sun, and you're going to draw a picture of the wheat that's not growing in the sun. You're going to measure in inches or centimeters how tall the wheat that's growing in the sun is and how tall the wheat that's growing in the shade is. And then there's a big long space down here for you to write the date. So you don't need to write the date twice since you're taking this recording on one day. So you're going to do that for day 2 again, day 4, day 6, day 8, and day 10. And then we're going to share our results. So before you even start this project, I want you to make a guess or a prediction. Do you think that the wheat that's growing in the shade or in the dark will grow bigger or smaller than the wheat that's growing in the sun? So think about that. Make that prediction before you start growing. And that's all that's in your wheat kit. All right, I'm so excited to hear how your wheat growing goes, and I will see you later. Bye!